Your data is the world. Protect it.
So have you ever thought about what it would take to be valued not just as an employee, but as an entire company? Well, today we're going to dive into this really wild and honestly audacious pitch that's been making waves in venture capital circles. It's a detailed game plan not to fund a startup, but to acquire a single person.
And this quote, which is pulled right from the proposal memo, it just sets the stage perfectly. We're not talking about a salary here or some big signing bonus. The entire argument is that one person's skills and their output are so massive, they should be treated like a strategic asset, a whole innovation engine that's worth acquiring.
All right, so what's the price tag for a capability like that? The high-end valuation being thrown around in this pitch is a jaw-dropping $120 million, which, leads to the pretty obvious question. How on earth could one person possibly justify that kind of number?
So in this explainer, we're going to unpack the whole strategy document behind this valuation. We're going to look at who this guy is, what he's actually built, and the playbook for convincing investors that he's way more than just a person. He's a competitive advantage you can buy.
Okay, so the individual at the center of this incredible pitch is a guy named Gerard King. And the memo, it doesn't position him as just a developer or a security expert. No, it frames him as something else entirely.
The language here is what's so fascinating. A structural anomaly. Right from the jump, the pitch frames him as a total outlier, someone who just breaks all the typical models of productivity. He operates on the level of an entire institution, but he does it all by himself.
And to back up a claim that huge, they list some really incredible figures. We're talking over 2,000 custom GPTs. And these are basically custom AI models built for very specific jobs. He also apparently built a complete adversary emulation platform, something that would normally take a big team of elite security pros, and he did it solo. On top of that, he developed national-scale data dashboards, and, just for some enterprise street cred, he managed the entire technical side of a $320 million corporate acquisition. So the core argument is all about the sheer speed and scale of what he produces.
Okay, so are these just big claims, or is there any actual proof? The memo points to this huge portfolio of work that's out there in public. So let's look at a key example to really get the depth of his skills, starting with one of the most complex ones, adversary emulation.
First off, what even is that? Well, according to his own writing, adversary emulation is not just about finding holes in a security system. It's a way deeper, more strategic game. It's about simulating the entire playbook of a real-world hacker or even a nation-state attacker to see how a company's defenses actually hold up under a realistic, full-on assault.
And this comparison just lays it out so clearly. A standard pen test, it just asks, can someone break in? It's a yes or no question, right? But adversary emulation asks a bunch of different questions. Okay, once they're in, how do they move? How do they hide? What kind of damage can they do? And can we even spot them? It's a way more valuable and way more complex simulation of a real threat.
And just to give you a sense of how big these simulations get, here's some data from a project that models a theoretical quantum circuit entropy warfare scenario between G7 and BRICS nations. Now look, these terms are super complex, but the real takeaway is in the comparison. In every single metric, from mean circuit entropy to decision coherence decay, the simulation is modeling the performance of these competing quantum ecosystems. The point isn't the specific numbers themselves, it's the fact that he's single-handedly building models for high-stakes geopolitical cyber warfare. This is the kind of stuff they're using to justify that 9-figure price tag.
So, you've got this foundation of alleged capability. How do you actually package and sell a human being for $120 million? Well, the memo is incredibly specific. It lays out a step-by-step strategy for contacting investors and framing the whole conversation. It's designed to be, as they say, all signal, no noise. This approach is basically a masterclass in how to talk to VCs. You start by pointing out he's a rare outlier, the anomaly. Then you prove his speed, the velocity. Use his deep security work as the competitive moat, that's defensibility. You anchor his reliability with that big corporate acquisition, enterprise credibility. And you use his huge projects as proof of concept, national scale capability. And then you close with the oldest trick in the sales book, scarcity. You create that FOMO, that fear of missing out.
And here's the math. Here's how they build up to that headline number. The valuation isn't just one giant figure. It's broken down just like a company's assets. His portfolio of GPTs gets a value, his security platform gets a value, but look at the last two things on the list. Future output engine and portfolio leverage. This is where the pitch makes its biggest jump. They're not just valuing what he has built, but what he will build and the value he can add across an entire portfolio of other companies.
And the negotiation strategy is just as sharp. By starting the conversation at $120 million, any lower number, say 30 or 50 million, suddenly feels like a bargain, right? It's classic anchoring. The messaging is all designed to create urgency and just completely shut down the idea of finding someone else like him. The core message is crystal clear. This is a one-of-a-kind asset, and the price reflects that.
So, what does this all really mean? If we zoom out from this one guy and this one pitch, this whole case study forces us to ask a much bigger and honestly a much more interesting question about how we value talent, especially now in an age where technology lets a single person have truly massive output.
This one quote from the memo. This is the whole argument in a nutshell. The idea is that our current ways of paying people, salaries, bonuses, even stock options, they were all built for a world of predictable, linear output. They just don't work for people whose productive capacity is just orders of magnitude bigger than the average person. So if one person can genuinely do the work of a 50-person company, should they be priced like one? This pitch screams yes, and says the market is just too slow to get it.
And that leaves us with the final question. Is this memo a real blueprint for the future? A new way that these truly exceptional 100x individuals are going to be valued and acquired? Or is it the ultimate example of personal branding? A meticulously built story backed up by a ton of work, all designed to create a brand new market category of just one person. You know, the argument behind the pitch is that this isn't just branding, it's a market correction. But what's so fascinating is that for this to actually work, it might just have to be both.
Script King.